Hello friends. In 2019, the June-July period, that is during the monsoon time, I went for a solo motorcycle ride from Ooty to Mumbai. I went mostly through the western ghats of Karnataka and then through the Konkan region of Maharashtra. The idea was to enjoy a monsoon ride, the ride through the rains, through the western ghats of Karnataka, which becomes very alive and beautiful during the monsoon period. I went to a lot of places after starting from Ooty, mainly to the western ghats, especially Madikeri and Coorg areas, then to Kallesvara, Dharamsthala, Karkala, Kudramukh, Sringeri, and finally to Jog Falls. After Jog Falls, I am at Davanegere now. So this is Davanegere in Karnataka, and by the way, if you're coming to Davanegere, don't stay at this hotel. Well, it is not too bad considering the price, but during this entire 3 weeks ride from Ooty to Mumbai, this hotel at Davanegere was the worst place I stayed in. Well, I always almost look for very low cost budget accommodation, and sometimes you get a very bad experience. So yesterday night was one of them. Anyway, today's video or this video is about my ride from Davanegere to Hampi. Hampi is almost towards the east of Karnataka, a major UNESCO World Heritage Site. Apart from the bike ride from Davanegere to Hampi, I'm also visiting a very famous, very old ancient temple built during the 10th century. That is the Kallesvara Swamy Temple in Hire-Gadegalli. I think I'm pronouncing the names right. It may be slightly different in Kannada. I always tend to avoid the main highways, the main roads with a lot of traffic, and go to interior places, roads going through very small villages and towns. And during the start of my ride from Davanegere, I just did that. And with this result, I somehow wound up in this very small village. In fact, I'm trying to find an ancient old temple which I saw on Google Maps. Somehow I got lost. The location given by Google Maps about that ancient temple was not correct. This is the location given on Google Maps, and when I reached there was nothing there, no temple. And they said it is somewhere 10 kilometers behind me, somewhere else. Well, getting lost is nothing new to me. I often do it to myself, and I'm not very worried about that because getting lost gets me to see these kinds of things which you will never see on a main highway, or you tend not to see on a main highway. Well, you might see, but not very often, and that is one of the advantages of going through these very small roads, very small villages. I never intended to come through all these places. Somehow I landed up here. In fact, this road was not there on Google Maps. So I'm not taking a very straightforward route from Davanegere to Hampi. I'm trying to find a lot of different, less visited places like the ancient temples, and with the result of these kinds of roads, these kinds of places, which you might not find on a highway, and that is one of the enjoyable experiences of going on a motorcycle ride. Anyway, after going through these bumpy roads which is not there on Google Maps, with the help of local people, I'm trying to find the main road now because I'm fed up of trying to find the ancient temples and other historical locations which seems to be on Google Maps but not on the ground. So finally I got to a main road, and here on I'm sticking with the main road. I'm not trying to go too much interior places. I'm going to stick on this road, but there is one ancient temple which I visited, which is a slight deviation from the main road on the road to Davanegere to Hampi. And in fact, on this road, as I said, there is a lot of different temples, very ancient temples. From here onwards, the route is almost like this. It seems to be kind of never ending. It almost always never has a bend, only when I go through small villages, and it is not up and downs like the Western Ghats. So it is a completely different experience from the about 10 days ride that I did through the Western Ghats. Very small villages like this and the temples festivals over there are kind of a refreshing change from this never-ending long flat roads. There is nothing much to do here apart from stick to your accelerator. It is almost kind of a highway, but not quite that. Nothing much to do apart from few small overtakes like this. So not the great experience of a motorcycle ride, and quite different from the ones I experienced during the Western Ghats ride. The one significant change is the weather. Although the sky is cloudy and no sun mostly during the entire day, only few drizzles. Unlike during the time when I was in the Western Ghats where it was raining almost entirely throughout the day and night, especially in the last 2 or 3 days when I was at Kudramukh, from there to Sringeri and from there to Jog Falls. If you had seen my previous 2 videos, you will know about the rain. That is, when I started from Karkala, I went through the Kudramukh National Park towards Sringeri, and from there to Jog Falls, and from there to Davanegere. So those 2 or 3 days was kind of horrible. It was almost always raining. I did go to a lot of different places, but then I couldn't enjoy it fully because it was always raining. And even though I started this ride with the intention of having a monsoon ride, a ride during the rainy season, a ride through the rain, which is the time when the Western Ghats become all the more beautiful, mainly because there are a lot of waterfalls and viewpoints on the Western Ghats. All those places come alive during the monsoon or just after the monsoon, when it has rained or when it has stopped raining. Especially the waterfalls on the Western Ghats, and I went to quite a few of them up till now, like maybe 3 or 4. And the viewpoints on the Western Ghats from the hilltops, those becomes much more green in color, very green, especially the Kudramukh National Park. That was a completely different experience, a very beautiful area. But then what happened was, in the last 2 days, the rains never stopped. It was almost always raining or drizzling. And when I went to Jog Falls, I couldn't take out even my DSLR to take a few photos. So I just decided to do some changes in my plans. Anyway, there was no plan in the first place. So I am going to the east of Karnataka towards Hampi. And on the route, I am visiting a few temples on the route. And this is one of them, the Kallesvara Swamy Temple at Hire-Gadegalli. So the idea is to escape from the rain for a few days at least. But still, after visiting Hampi, I am going back to the Western Ghat region. Anyway, to the temple, the Kallesvara Swamy Temple. This one was built around the 10th century. So this temple, even though it is very small, it is located very close to the main road. It is not very big, not a large place. You can maybe spend around 1 or 2 hours because the place is beautiful. The temple is very beautiful and it is preserved by the Archaeological Survey of India. As I said, this temple was built during the 10th century. So it is kind of 1000 years old. The sculptures and the stonework on this temple is very beautiful and magnificent. Usually in these historical places, you tend to get a guide to give you an idea of the architecture, the religious significance, the historic aspects of the temple. But this one is a small place. It is only a very small compound, very close to the main road. But then when I went there, I didn't see any guides or any people around the place or even within the temple itself. There was just me there, nobody else. One reason could be the season. It is raining. It has started raining in these parts of Karnataka, so the monsoon has reached these parts of Karnataka. And is not a tourist season, or the tourist season over these parts have finished. And that was the case even when I reached Hampi. It was an off season in Hampi, very less tourist flow over there as well. And I would say that is one of the main advantages of going on a tour during this season, during the rainy season, because you get to see these things alone. There is nobody else to bother you, or there is no crowd. It is just you and the place. And that was almost always the case for the last 1 week at least. After I left Madikeri or the Coorg area, I went to a lot of different places, small and large viewpoints, a lot of waterfalls and historic places like Sringeri, Dharamsthala, Karkala and all those places. At Dharamsthala and at Sringeri, there are a lot of people over there because those are pilgrimage centers. But then at Karkala and a lot of other places like Kudramukh and very small temples like these on the route, there were nobody there. It was just me. So the reason for no guides at this place could be due to that. That is, no tourists, so no guides. And then there is nothing much on the internet about this place itself, just a Wikipedia page, and then few other websites which are copied from Wikipedia itself. So apart from just seeing the place, going through it, going around it, I didn't get much information about the historic, religious or any other aspects like the architectural elements of the place. But the temple is really beautiful. The preservation could be better, although it is done by the Archaeological Survey of India. They have tried to maintain the compound and the temple. There is the usual wear and tear, but apart from that, it is in good condition. The one which you can expect from a 1000-year-old temple. The stone carvings, the sculptures and the statues are really magnificent. Some of them are in very good condition, some of them there is the natural wear and tear due to the weather conditions maybe. And there are attempts to preserve it and then also to restore some of the elements. Like these numbers given on various sections of the temple, I think it is an attempt to preserve it or to improve it or to modify it. Anyway, I was there for about an hour. Nothing much to do there. You can just roam around the temple. It is a very small place. It is not exactly on the road to Hampi when you're going from Davanegere. This is a little bit inside. And very close to this place is another temple. So I'm trying to find the other one, but then the rain started and I reached the place where the temple location is given on Google Maps, but the same condition as before, the same story as before, no temple, the wrong location, and nobody else to ask for directions because it was raining. So what I did was then I started my ride directly to Hampi. I didn't bother to look for any other new places. One temple on the route is just, I thought, enough for the day. I started this ride to get an experience of the rain season, the monsoon season, through the Western Ghats. But then, as I said before, for the last 2 or 3 days, it has been raining very heavily. I was almost always soaking in water. My things were almost always wet. My clothes were wet. My bags were getting wet. And also I have to preserve the electronic items like the cameras, the mobile phones. So when I started this ride, I didn't plan to go to Hampi. Anyway, there was no plan in the first place. I just wanted to go through Western Ghats, and I was like kind of searching for the next nearest place, the next nearest tourist attraction to go to whenever I reach a place. So up until now, I was almost always through the Western Ghats. But then the reason for coming here for about a day or two is to have a break from the rainy season period, and that is what exactly happened here. There was no rains, or rather very few small drizzles throughout the day, and that is a refreshing change. But then the atmosphere and the roads are kind of quite different from what I have been experiencing for the last 1 week. The roads are almost always straight, nothing much to do, and that is kind of boring, I think. And the place is getting hotter and hotter, even though there is no sun. So a significant change from the rainy season period I was enjoying through the Western Ghats. Even though it rains here on these areas, it is not the kind of rains that you get on the hillside, on the Western Ghat regions. Over there, it becomes very cold even during the day. So I'm getting out of my overalls, my raincoats, the rainwear, because it is kind of becoming hot inside a raincoat. Now I'm riding to the eastern direction of Karnataka, and as I go along the eastern direction, I think the rains are getting less and less, and the roads are increasingly becoming like this, very straight, nothing to do. Even though this is not the main highway that I should have taken from Davanegere to Hampi, this is very close to that, I think. Now there is no real highway like a 4-lane road from Davanegere to Hampi. The other road, which should have been the road that I should have taken if I was going directly from Davanegere to Hampi, maybe a bit more broader and larger. Now I am reaching almost near to my destination Hampi. This is the Tungabhadra reservoir area. On the river Tungabhadra, there is a dam built at about 5 kilometers from here, and all these places are the banks of the Tungabhadra river. So this flat area you see in front should have been covered in water. So that is the reservoir area. The rains have started only in the last few days, and it has not yet reached this place. So maybe that is the reason why there is not much water at this place. But then nearer to the dam area, there is a huge reservoir, and that is the next place I'm going to, or trying to go to see the Tungabhadra dam, because that is also kind of a historic dam. It is maybe around 50 or 60 years old. So I'm trying to go to the dam area to see the dam, because that is also one historical building or historic structure. But this is the closest point I got to it to see the dam, because if you go to the reservoir area, you go inside through the villages and other places to the reservoir area. There is a small park over there. From there you cannot see the entire dam itself. You are not allowed near the actual dam itself, because I think that is a strategic area, and they don't want people to go very close to the dam and all that. I'm trying to go there. Now this is not the dam, this is only a waterway, I think a spillway or maybe a canal for the irrigation or farming. The Tungabhadra river goes ahead and merges with the Krishna river somewhere on the border areas between Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. And here at this place somewhere, I think there is a power generation area, power generation site also. So this is somewhere close to the reservoir area. Up ahead you can see it from a very long distance. So you cannot see the dam from up close. So now back to the original destination, that is to Hampi. Now this is kind of an entry point towards Hampi. I think when you're going from the western region, you initially get to Hospet, or that I think that is the name of the place. There are a lot of these historic, very old structures, temples, monuments, buildings on both sides of the road. About the places to visit and things to see at Hampi and the things to do over there, that would be in my next video. But just to give an idea of the place, Hampi was the capital of the Vijayanagara Empire, which flourished during the 13th, 14th and the 15th century. I think various dynasties ruled the Vijayanagara Empire during these 3 centuries. Now this is kind of an entry point to the Hampi monuments or the Hampi ruins. And Hampi is also a religiously significant place, a pilgrimage center for the Hindu religion, because one of the very famous temples over there is the Virupaksha Kshetra. When I reached the place, it is almost towards the evening, and at this place there is one unique temple, the Murugan temple or the Murugan Kovil, the kind of temple you could see in Tamil Nadu, and the architecture and the style of this temple is very much similar to the ones you find in Tamil Nadu. The main things to see at Hampi are the ruins of the empire, the ruins of the monuments, the temples, the structures, the buildings, all those things which were destroyed during the 15th century when the invaders, the enemy forces invaded the empire and completely destroyed it. So most of it is in ruins, and it is kind of a hilly area with a lot of rock hills, and on these rock hills are the small structures, very small and large temples and other kinds of buildings. And the ruins are spread over a very huge area, a very huge landmass. Similar to any other tourist place in India, even here you can find a lot of people like agents, brokers, guides, people with rooms and homestays. Even though this is not a tourist season, there are a lot of guides because a lot of people visit Hampi at almost all the time throughout the year. But this is an off season, and usually what these guides tend to do is to take you to the most important sites, and there is a fixed cost for that for the authorized guides, and the cost varies on seasons. So during the off season the cost is slightly less. So that is one advantage of coming here during the off season, and there are not many people during the off season. And this climate, when I came here, was a very good climate. It was not very hot, it was not raining too much, even though there was drizzles. But then the time I think was the best time to come here, or the best time to visit Hampi is just about during the start of the monsoon period. Maybe during the winter period also is a good time. Anyway, I roamed around the place for about 1 hour or so to get in the views, just to have a feel of the place. Not many tourists here, and the place is spread around a large area, a huge area. So it is almost towards sunset, and before coming here I had booked a small homestay, the cheapest I could get, and that place is very close to the historic the Virupaksha temple, the 7th century temple, and I am trying to find that place. I think that is the area where you get the cheapest homestays and rooms. I got the room for like about 300 rupees, and that is a very ideal location, I think. So I got to the place, and I think that's all for this video. My next video will be about the sightseeing at Hampi. So as everybody says, I hope you like this video. If you liked, give it a thumbs up, and also try to share it with your friends. I'm going to give a link to my next video just about here, the one on the right side.